Okay, Chris Speaks Back with Brandon Mosley for our BCS State of Alabama podcast. We got GOP candidate Rodney Walker with us here today. Rodney, so you made some headlines in recent days with a press release you put out. I know I did an article on it about calling out the news here and saying they're fake with the polls. But what makes you think the polls are off?
Well, first of all, good morning, and thank y'all
Hey,
for
sorry.
having me here this morning.
Thank thank you for coming back.
And then the second thing is, it's not all news media that I called out. It's a few of the people that are being fake news because I would like to say there are a lot of other good people that put the truth out and so forth. But the reason that I said that is because um, I'm always shown on this particular news outlet as being 1%, and they've never really acknowledged my existence in the race and so forth. And it's not just myself; it's other candidates in this race, it's other candidates in the lieutenant governor's race, and different things. And I'm just calling for things to be fair and honest, and not be sided on the people that they decide to contribute to or that they would like to see in office.
Yeah, that's sort of the bad thing with the Alabama press is, there was like two newspapers and they dominated the whole deal. And fortunately, those days came to an end. But then, it doesn't cost too much to start up a website and, start producing news articles. And people that want to influence outcomes or advance legislation or candidates were able to create their own news sites and operate as quasi news sources. And I mean, we've always had a problem with bias in the media. It's not the left wing bias that we used to have per se, but it's much more of a personalities and issues bias, now without throwing stones at anybody I've worked with in the past or may work with again in the future.
Yes, sir.
So
Well, go ahead, Brandon.
the poll that came out showed a three-way race where it was basically a three-way tie between Jared Hudson, Steve Marshall, and Barry Moore for the U.S. Senate. I'm not familiar with that poster. Do you think they may have oversampled Jefferson County, where Jared Hudson has worked as the sheriff's, well, ran for sheriff, has worked as a deputy in Jefferson and Shelby County, where his business is, and he's a lot better known. That's like if we had overrepresented West Alabama, East Alabama, where you're, we where your ranch is, and oh, hey, Ronnie's doing really great here.
Yes, sir, I do. I mean, there's been other polls that was done by other people to see how their race was going and so forth, and they would immediately call me and say, hey, look, you're ranking 26% here in our in East Central Alabama, where they're running their race. And so I do believe I don't know this person that run this poll last, but what I do know is that the Club for Growth paid for a poll, and it showed Barry, of course, at the top because that's the man they're supporting. It showed Steve moving to number two, and then it showed Jared as number three. Then 3 days later, also that showed 46% undecided. And then 3 days later, this person that nobody knows of that has to have subscribers to his media outlet, in other words, they were polled approximately 300 people. And then all of a sudden, that makes Jared even with those other three people and shows me and Seth Burton and Dees at 1%. Our poll that we paid for, which was done by a company in DC that's very well known as Deep Root Analytics of Arlington, Virginia, according to their poll, and I've kept that quiet since we done it, but it showed us at 21% with 44% undecided. And as I talk to people in the news media and so forth, they tend to agree that that's about the right spot. I'm not after I'm not after us showing as being number one or number two or whatever, but I do think that these numbers are very much skewed that they're trying to present to people. And then when other folks ask you about funding and that type of thing, that's what these polls are designed for, is to get people to give them more money.
You think that's why they're showing you it 1%, because you're not advertising with them?
Um, I think that could possibly be a thing, but at the same time, the people that's been running these polls, or the people that's reporting this media, are funding, are their different sponsors are sending these other three people money, and the big machine is trying to control the elections and so forth. And one candidate has received $5 million from cryptocurrency, and then another 1.5 million from the Club for Growth. All that's being spent on media buys and that type of thing. But at the end of the day, it's not really moving the needle that much. But I believe, since I'm an outsider and a businessman, and I'm not, aligned with getting all the PAC money from the different sources, I'm not bought and paid for. So I think that since perhaps that we scare some of these insider people, the bureaucrats, that perhaps they'd like to keep me knocked down. But the thing is, it's the people's choice, and that's what everyone needs to realize, that May 19th, it's their choice of who they'd like to send to the United States Senate, whether they want somebody that's bought and paid for, or whether they want somebody that wants to work for them.